And we welcome you in to the Coach's Show with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Ed Conroy, from a different place tonight, as we're not at the Tanger Outlets, but we're actually home sweet home in McAllister Fieldhouse here on the top floor overlooking the court. Getting ready to talk Citadel basketball here over the next hour. We'll break down some film coming up. We've brought that over from the football side to the basketball side here at the Coach's Show tonight. We'll look back at the game Tuesday against North Carolina and even go way back to rivalry week a couple weeks ago and the layoff for the Citadel as well. We'll talk about it all coming up over the next hour with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Conroy, who's with us, of course, this evening. Coach, good evening. How are you?
Oh, doing great. Great to be here, and appreciate the fans showing up here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. So here we are in McAllister Fieldhouse this evening, different setting. We'll get into all the games and everything, but using this opportunity, what do you like about this? Obviously, you're very familiar with this building. What do you like? I know you've brought in, since you've arrived, you made a lot of changes around here as well to spruce up the building as well, but almost like a recruiting pitch. What do you like so much about having McAllister Fieldhouse be your home floor here at the Citadel?
Well, I think it's one of the great venues in college basketball. I'm biased, of course, but I don't think there's anything like McAllister Fieldhouse when you get the core in there and our home fans. I love the feel of an old fieldhouse with some history and tradition, and obviously the noise level when the core is here is great. And then this facility up here on the third floor, we take a lot of pride in this. A lot of basketball history up here. There's been a lot of great players that have come through this program and coaches, and just try to highlight those up here on this floor. And but my favorite part of this floor is right before every game, because we have our most loyal and supportive fans up here for a little pregame celebration and get ready for the games. And I get a chance to come over here and speak with them for a few minutes before going down one last time with our team. And the energy up here before games is always special and something I really appreciate.
Bulldogs will be home this Saturday to take on Longwood, so come out and join us here at the McAllister Fieldhouse. 1 p.m. tip-off Saturday afternoon. If you can't make it, of course, coverage will begin on the radio at 12:30 on Saturday. However, you're listening this evening, if you're on the radio side of things, you can always watch the Coach's Show as well. Head over to YouTube and find the Citadel Sports page, YouTube account, and then there you can actually see the video breakdown we'll get into a little bit later on, looking back at the Citadel game Tuesday night against North Carolina. With that said, let's go way back, because it's been a couple weeks since we've done a Coach's Show, and I know as a coach you're always looking forward to the next one. But humor me for a few moments as we go back a few games, because last time we did one of these, we were getting ready for what was called rivalry week, because you were taking on Charleston Southern and College of Charleston that week. You beat Charleston Southern on the road. You have the loss here at home against College of Charleston. But just overall, because I know, as we've talked about many times, you wanted those games back on the schedule. As you look back on that week, reassess now a little bit later on, how'd you like that week, getting those games back together and at least winning 1 out of 2?
Obviously we would have liked to win both, but big picture for our program, great week. One, just getting those games back on our schedule going forward in the future, I thought was a priority when I took the job, and it didn't disappoint. We had a very good crowd, spirited game over there at Charleston Southern. We were fortunate enough to come out with that win. Barkley does a great job over there, and he's got a good team this year. They're gonna make some noise in the Big South, but I think the environment over there was really good as far as our guys going on the road, getting a true road win before we head into league play. I think that's invaluable. And then we came home, 2 days later, had a terrific crowd in here in McAllister Fieldhouse. Over 5,000 fans in here, and to see this place filled up again, and the interest in that rivalry pick right back up, where it left off, some time ago. That was really gratifying. And for our program going forward, those 2 games, it means a lot to our schedule. And I don't know that we handled going through that the first time, those 2 games. We didn't have a guy in our program who ever played Charleston Southern or the College of Charleston. I think we emotionally, just winning on Wednesday, it took us a little bit to bounce back from that. I thought we came out, maybe with not the same energy that I would have liked to see start the game, but our guys fought and they competed, and we had a great crowd in here, and like I said, and we'll benefit from playing both of those games, and I'm thrilled they're back on the schedule, and I really look forward to them going forward.
Feels like ancient history now, because we're already halfway through December, but with that win against Charleston Southern, you closed out November with a program record number of wins against a Division I team, and a program record number of road wins, or at least wins away from home, neutral site and road, against Division I programs as well for the Citadel in the month of November. So I know we're already a couple of weeks into December, but again, as we look back here to start the show tonight, a good November for you guys to accomplish some things that this program never had prior.
No question. And I purposely set out, I wanted this to be the toughest schedule in the history of Citadel basketball. The most teams ever scheduled in a regular season, Division I teams. We wanted to really test ourselves. We wanted to get as accurate a feedback as we can each and every night out on what it's going to take to win in the Southern Conference. And, so to set the program record for wins in November, we broke a record of our 2009 team, I believe, against Division I competition. That's a nice accomplishment for our guys. It won't mean anything if we don't take that information going forward and turn that into wins in January and February. But I think that's exactly what it'll do. We're challenging our guys each and every stop we can. We went from New Orleans down there playing in a 3 games in 3 days against Division I teams, played the host team right off the bat. Yep. Then we come home, Charleston Southern, College of Charleston, and then, oh, by the way, then we go right to North Carolina. So our guys, they're going up against it each and every night, and we've got another quality opponent coming in here on Saturday in Longwood.
Yeah, certainly, and there's been some wild matchups between the Citadel and Longwood the last few years. We'll break that down coming up a little bit later on, but you lead me right to my next question as we look back at things before moving forward. After that College of Charleston game, then you have the 10-day layoff as the guys have exams to worry about, and you got back to action Tuesday night against North Carolina. We'll talk about that in a moment, but I asked you about this on the radio broadcast. It's almost like in football, you get that bye week, you can reassess things. How beneficial was it, especially at that time of the year, to get that 10-day layoff from games where you can work on some other things in practice before having to take the floor again the other night?
Well, really twofold. One, I like the idea of rivalry week because we were playing games. We need to fit 31 games in a basketball schedule is not the easiest thing, and so we need to play games that week. But we didn't need to be traveling. We're getting ready for exams, so we played those two games at home, and then we get the break where we get 10 days to practice, but we kind of shorten some of the practices up and take a couple extra days off because we're trying to focus on exams. And our guys, we're getting the results in right now. I'm sure we're going to have a terrific semester. We'll get the final grades here by the end of the week. And our guys really are committed in that area. So to give them a chance to do their best in the academic setting, but then also basketball-wise, take a step back and see, take that information I talked about from all those games, those different styles against Division I teams, and where do we need to really, get better. And I thought several of those things we did improve, and it allowed us to stay in the game against North Carolina for a while. We still need to get better in some other areas.
Speaking of exams, I went to college, but I was a communications major, so I took the easy path. But it's hard enough going to college, and then you throw on all the basketball responsibilities. You went through it. You did it here at this school. I mean, how challenging is that for those guys to have these games to worry about? You get that break. Now you have exams to worry about. And as a student athlete, right, there's always a lot to juggle both on the floor and in the classroom, I'm sure.
Well, and then you throw on their cadet life.
Yes,
so cadet student athlete and what our guys, how much they pack into one 24-hour day is really amazing, and it's a tribute to them that they keep plugging away and they have a great attitude about it, and they try to do well on all fronts. And from a cadet side, and whether it's discipline or things like that, I think we had a successful semester. We're getting those grades, and now I think we're going to do great. And our guys don't shy away from taking the toughest of majors, whether it is engineering or business or any of those kind of things. So our guys are well represented across the board academically, and as you said, they're playing a good level of basketball.
From a basketball perspective, during those 10 days, what X's and O's wise did you want to really zero in on to polish up before getting back to it the other night?
Well, we need to continue taking better and better care of the basketball, and we've actually we've moved up in the rankings, if you will, nationally in that category as far as taking care of the ball, and then not just take care of it and be cautious with it, but can we really flow offensively? And when we need to have a longer possession, can we do that? Certainly, we want the ability to strike quickly at times as well, but just kind of ironing out our offense a little bit and getting a little bit better with our flow. And then, no secret, College Charleston exposed it. Other teams have. North Carolina did as well. We've got to get better on the backboards, both offensively and defensive rebounding. So been working on that, and obviously we can't change how tall we are, how long we are, but there's some things we can do, and we've been working on those things as well.
That takes me to the game against UNC the other night. We'll get to the film breakdown in just a few moments, but let me first ask you a couple of questions about that. The 167 loss to UNC the other night, preseason #1 team. They were in the national title game a year ago. They got a ton of talent on that team. I know when you joined me on the postgame show, you maybe weren't the most pleased with the performance of your Bulldogs, but now a couple days removed, you probably have looked back and maybe watched the film, crunched the numbers, broken it down. As you look back at that game, just what stands out to you? What did you think about the team's performance the other night in Chapel Hill?
Well, there were certainly some bright spots, and I didn't want post-game radio to take away from that. But, the expectations I have for our guys, and I know that they do on themselves. We worked really hard those 10 days we were off, and I thought we had a chance late in the first half to manage that game a lot better. And they're so explosive. There's a reason they were the number one team in the country, preseason. They're so explosive. We really let that one get away the last 3.5 minutes of the first half, and therefore I don't think the score was indicative at halftime of how the game was being played, and certainly in the second half the same thing. So I almost just more of felt for our guys, and that they had worked so hard, and we were just a couple decisions away from maybe having that game in a different spot at halftime. And so that part was disappointing. But again, that means that we were playing pretty good basketball there for a long period of time, and that game was important to us. That was another game I targeted to put on this schedule. We've played North Carolina 20 or 20 plus times in our history. It was a consistent rival. I know when I was recruited here, it's one of the reasons I came, because Coach Robinson always played the North-South doubleheader, and North Carolina was going to be on the Citadel schedule on a pretty consistent basis, and going all the way back to the days of the Southern Conference. So it's we don't want to shy away from anybody, and we want those type of traditional rivals, if you will. We want to play them as many times as we can, and I want our guys to go into those games expecting to win.
Obviously, as you said, you're very familiar with that program. You played that program. You coached against them. You've been in that building. But as a coach, you're not a fanboy. You're locked into the game. But is there a moment that, as you coach a game there, when you walk into that building, do you still, get the thrill of it all to be at the Dean Dome, one of the more iconic arenas in college basketball?
Well, there's a fan in all of us, and and I love the basketball history, so the banners, that are up there and things like that. We brought our guys in the night before to shoot for 30 minutes just so they could get over that part of it, because then when you come on game day, you need to lock in and be competitive. But, going there, it's just like going to Hinkle Fieldhouse at Butler and, the home of Hoosiers, if you will, things like that. I want to provide those kind of experiences for our guys in our basketball program. And certainly I have great familiarity with that program, being part of the rivalry at NC State in North Carolina, going back there with several of the teams that I've been fortunate to coach, and then you look on the sidelines, and all their coaches are former players that I either competed against, like Jeff Lebo, guys like that, or when I was at NC State, it was Hubert Davis. So knowing all of those guys, it does make it fun. And North Carolina, from Bubba Cunningham to athletic director on down, first class operation. They always do a great job, and so I love for our program to be a part of that as well.
Third biggest arena in college basketball. For a basketball player, of course, you were a great shooter in your playing days. When you get into a big arena like that, is there an adjustment with the sight lines when you have, maybe a change in depth perception in terms of the backdrop? Does that come into play for guys when they step into, a big-time arena that maybe they're not used to playing in that size of arena?
I think for most of our guys, and because I think it does help to go over. We go over the night before, and then we go over the day of for an hour-long, fundamental practice, if you will. Some people call it a shoot-around. We really try to work on our player development piece during that time. We try to use the same ball our opponent is using the entire week of practice. So you try to minimize as many differences as you can. And I think our guys are, even though they never played in that building before, they're pretty experienced and traveled. Austin Nash was at Iowa, and Elijah Morgan was at Notre Dame, and things like that. So I think they get accustomed to it pretty quickly, even though I think if you just showed up 30 minutes before game time, it might have a little bit of an effect.
Last thing, then we'll take a break, come back with our film breakdown. But I asked you this the other night, I'll ask you again. You play Clemson, you play Butler, you play UNC. How do these types of opponents this year prepare you as we now get ready for conference play coming up in a couple of weeks?
Well, I think they give you we want to be and have a system offensively and defensively where we're prepared to beat the best teams in our league, the best teams on our schedule, and it gives you feedback right away where you may be lacking, where you might be exposed a little bit, and how you need to shore up, whether it's I need to do a better job of teaching or we need to do a better job in practice emphasizing something. But I think you get better. Iron sharpens iron, and I think you get better by playing the best. And that's why I put together the schedule I have. Our guys have responded. You can't play that type of schedule unless you've got some mentally tough guys, because you're going to get some feedback, whether it's Butler or the North Carolina game, that doesn't go your way. And you have to bounce back and have another great practice the next day. I think the attractiveness of the opponents, our guys' excitement about these games, has led us to have great practices, because every time we finish one game, we've got another marquee opponent sitting there in front of us, and our guys come excited to practice the next day.
Bulldogs will take on Longwood this Saturday. That's what's coming up next. 1 p.m. tip-off here at the McAllister Fieldhouse. Get your tickets online. Come out and join us this Saturday to see the Bulldogs in their return home, first home game here in 2 weeks. So come out and see us Saturday. When we come back, we'll look ahead to that game coming up a little bit later on this hour. But first, we'll still look back to the other night, that game against North Carolina, break down some film. So head over to YouTube, find the Citadel Sports YouTube page, and watch along with us as Coach will break down some footage with us when we come back. It's Coach's Show, the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Ed Conroy. Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. We're back with our film breakdown after this here all across the Citadel Sports Network. here, but also bringing the video breakdown to the Coaches Show as well. So if you're listening on the radio side of things, please bear with us for a little bit. And you can always go back. The video is archived. You can watch it anytime. Head over to the Citadel Sports YouTube page. You can watch the video live right now. Join us there. Or you can go back and watch the video at any time as well to see firsthand the video breakdown here that we are adding to the Coaches Show tonight. I'm dealing with a little bit of a voice issue this week anyways, so Coach, I'm literally going to move out of the way. I'll hand things off to you and take us through some of these plays from the other night as you guys played North Carolina.
Well, I'll try to give you maybe 8 or 10 clips here, just kind of show you what we were trying to accomplish going into this game, and what we were, how we were able to be successful, and a couple of times where we maybe didn't quite do exactly what we wanted to do. But this first clip here is first possession of the game for us, so we actually were able to win the tap, and we come down, and we want to get a lot of movement. You'll see a lot of movement on this clip, but it's not random movement. We wanted to, as you go through this, you'll see, we want to get all kinds of different cuts, and I wanted, as a football coach would script things to start a game, I like to do that as a basketball coach as well, based on my film work and scouting reports. And I have an educated guess, but I want to see exactly how they're guarding us this night. So you'll see this one. We start out, we wanted to make sure that we knew who was going to guard who, what the matchups were, and then what would cause them to switch defenders and possibly get some matchups that would be in our favor. And so you see a back screen right there. As we start this possession right here, we get a back screen from Jackson Price, and right here, they don't switch that, but then he sets a ball screen for Stephen Clark to get downhill, and Nance and Baker, the two big guys for North Carolina, they switch. So in basketball terms, that was a 5-on-4 ball screen, and they decided to switch this. So that tells us from the bench that, hey, that might be something we can go to later. Can Armando Baker, as talented as he is, one of the best players in the country, can he guard Stephen Clark away from the basket, or does he want to, around that three-point line? So now we've already gotten that information, and then we come out, and Austin Ashe was a marked man because of his ability to shoot the three. We had him set a guard-to-guard ball screen, which is kind of unusual, but I wanted to see if they would switch that type of thing, and sure enough they do. And therefore, we come back. Austin has the basketball. He cuts and fakes the ball screen that time. Right after setting one, now he slips it really quick, and they get confused. Are they going to switch or not switch? And you see right here, we get two North Carolina defenders on the basketball with Elijah Morgan right there, and we've got Austin open because we just set a screen and then a slip. And now Austin fakes the shot. He draws two defenders. Quickly over to Elijah. We get an open three to start the game. That's a great start for the Bulldogs. We're up 3-0. Now we have that information, and so the next time they score, we get a chance to come down. I want to move them again in a different way. We set a screen again now, Steven, and we get the switch we were just talking about. We just got we just set the ball screen right there, and we get the switch with Nance and Baker we were talking about, and we're not going to mess around anymore. We've got what we wanted. We're not going to continue the possession like we did on the first one. We're just going to go on the attack. And here Steven gets downhill on Armando. We were hoping to get a foul right here and maybe put some foul trouble on him. We get the basket. Maybe in McAllister Fieldhouse we get that call.
Yeah.
But that's what we were trying to do. We found out from that first possession how we could attack, where we could get a switch, and now we're going to use Steven's versatility and get him downhill. We're starting to settle in the game a little bit, playing a little bit better. We go back to a little bit of the random movement. We bring it out. They've got a different lineup on the floor now. So, again, we want to find out information again. And now we insert, now they have Armando's guarding Jackson Price, who we started in the game. He ended up getting his career high in the game. But this is a move we work on all the time in practice. We call it an escape. And Jackson's footwork's pretty good. He should, as David drives baseline, he should step with the nearest foot that's being driven at, and so that he can efficiently get out here in 3 steps, get turned around, and get this shot off. That's something Jackson's been working on. He's a very good shooter, and if you did shooting drills, he'll do very well. He needs to get it off even quicker if he wants to be on the perimeter. This is a pretty good job of showing his improvement so far. You see the footwork right there. That's really efficient. Anybody, like, this is going to be tough for people to guard the remainder of the year. Watch his footwork again. 1, 2, 3, down. Right, that's pretty good. We've worked really hard on that since June. He's really bought into what we're trying to do from a development philosophy, and he nails that shot for us. So we know now. We just saw him able to do that. Mm-hmm. We had a timeout. We're going to come out of it. In the timeout, I'm going to draw something up different to give them a different look, but get us the same result. And we're going to get Jackson back out to the perimeter here. And you can see, they don't want to switch that. Armando doesn't want to come out here and guard him. He's slow getting out there. Jackson's efficient with his footwork. We knocked down the shot. So we're right back in the game. That put it down, put us back within single digits in the game. This is the start to second half. We go to this movement right here, which we get Stephen Clark out at the top acting as a point guard, and we get 5 people, nobody around the paint. We take all their big players away from the rim so that our guys can attack without a fear of a shot getting blocked. But then we're gonna do something here to free up Austin Ash, and we're going to screen. Elijah's going to screen down and try to get an advantage here. And the information we get on this, as you see, we knew by watching film that when they come off to go to ball screen, Nance right here will usually have his hands down low. So we're telling our guys come off and throw it high. There's the tag. They missed the tag on Steven. We put it up. We get Steven the ball in a really good spot. And he's able to attack and put Nance underneath the basket. Here we are again. We knew from early in the game that Austin, when he sets a screen, can cause problems on communication for them. And here you see them switch. And then they actually switch again. And we end up getting our point guard going against their center. Running to the rim. Anytime that happens for us, we want to run our big to the rim because he's being guarded by a smaller player. So this is the point guard that was guarding Elijah right here. So Brady's going to dive to the rim. Even if we miss the shot, he should get an offensive rebound or at least have a great chance of getting it. He's now tried to post him up. Steven drives. Steven works on his pivots. Brady stays right there with his height advantage. Steven knows that our guys are getting better and better at recognizing matchups and matchups that are in our favor, and then taking advantage of them within the fundamentals where we're not stopping, resetting, drawing attention to it. We just keep playing. We call that our flow, and that's one of the things we're getting better at. This is where Steven's so valuable right here. Got him out there playing as a point. We played him offensively. You see he takes over the point guard here. We played him at all 5 positions on the floor in this game. It allows us to take advantage of matchups. I'm sure they're not used to having their centers guarding this far away from the basket. We work very hard on our backdoor cuts. There's David Maynard. Brady following it up. Austin is really, really good. One thing Austin and David Maynard underrated do really well. David Maynard had 18 assists on the year, 2 turnovers. That's terrific. Austin, maybe not the fastest guy on the team, but very good making decisions in transition with the ball out here. So when we don't get it to a point guard, we have multiple guys that can bring the ball up. Good spacing here. Madison, very good job. We call this a slow read. So he's right there. He's got that ball tucked, and he's getting better and better at his first step quickness. We like this of him getting downhill. He's going to be a really effective player for us, getting downhill, getting to the rim. He gives us that ability to do that. Him and A.J. Smith and Elijah Morgan really do that for us. Again, we wanted to get that thing to the rim. We were hoping to get the foul call there again, at the rim. Good hustle. Here we go. And again, I mentioned Austin. He's a very good pass ahead player in transition. Obviously has the ability to shoot the ball, but we don't want to just, as you saw in those first couple of possessions where we took some time off the clock while we were trying to figure out how they were guarding us. We want to take that information and then be a quick strike team. And here we get out and we score. As you see, we score within 4 or 5 seconds on the shot clock. Jackson doing a good job of running the floor. We never want you to feel like you know what pace or tempo we're going to play at. We always want to be in control of that. This is a possession we didn't do so well. So North Carolina, you see here, the game actually, I believe it was 35-31.
Yep.
And I had Madison Dewar and Steven both had 2 fouls. Wasn't necessarily going to put them back in at the end of the half if we kept it that close. But then they scored one more time. I did not want this game to get to 10 at halftime. I thought that was a key thing to keep that thing under 10 with the way, playing on the road, those type of things. One thing, North Carolina, you have to respect their explosiveness. And if they want you to take tough shots over their length. And let's watch on this drive. Madison does a great job getting to a paint touch. But you'll see these defenders out here. They stay completely matched up, back turned, not even paying attention to them, not coming off anybody out there. They want you to take that shot over their length because they know that 2 is less than 3, right? And so they want you to take this tough 2, we call it. Even if you hit 40 or 45%, those ones that come off that rim, then they fly in transition and score really quick. We need to be able to flow, make another cut, get the ball back out of there. tough shot right there. And here they go. They get off to the races, and they're really, really tough to guard when they get out in transition like this. And that's how the game got away from us a little bit at the end of the first half. Love the aggressiveness of our young guards and our players out there. We'll get better and better as the year goes on. Really, almost, it's a major part of the game, but it's one of the least of my concerns. I'd rather have these guys being aggressive, playing with confidence. And now we're starting to learn how to manage that game a little bit. And that's when I talk about what I was disappointed when we didn't manage that game at the end of the first half. It's those couple plays right there.
Fascinating breakdown. Again, if you're only on the radio side, head over to YouTube, Citadel Sports YouTube page, to go back and watch it any time to see the actual video breakdown. My only follow-up would be, they always say the difference in football, the difference between college football and the NFL is about matchups. You referenced it here, but how much of what you guys try to do is taking advantage of certain matchups?
We want to be a team that flows seamlessly, so you don't recognize how we're not standing around backing it out and calling a play. We know how to play with our fundamentals and our attack, but we are taking advantage of matchups all the time and putting people in different positions. I like versatile players, guys like Stephen Clark. Most of my guys play more than one position, and that allows us to move them all over the floor. And so we put your matchups in a tough spot.
That's what we hear a lot about now, right? Positionless basketball, and this has become a buzzword. Head over to YouTube. Again, if you're not already watching, watch that video anytime. Citadel Sports YouTube page. Very fascinating breakdown from the game the other night against North Carolina with Coach. We'll come back, look ahead to Saturday's game, talk more Citadel basketball as well with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Conroy. Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. We're hanging out at the McAllister Fieldhouse tonight, getting ready for Saturday's game, which will be here in this building, 1 p.m. tip-off. We'll see you out here Saturday. We'll come back, get ready for that game, talk more Citadel basketball. After this, here all across the Citadel Sports Network. The head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Ed Conroy, here as we're hanging out at the McAllister Fieldhouse tonight. Coach's Show brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. And we're here on Saturday. It'll be a little more busier as the Bulldogs will be playing Longwood Saturday afternoon, 1 p.m. Head over to CitadelSports.com to get your tickets now and come out and join us Saturday. And whenever those two teams have gotten together, they've been some wild games over the last couple of years. So I'm sure Saturday will be another interesting one. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit. But if you've been with us, you know we just did our video breakdown last segment. Again, if you missed it, head over to YouTube. Watch it anytime. But it's always such a fascinating inside look into what the program does or how things transpired, in this case the other night against North Carolina. I was thinking, you referenced it, Coach, and I asked you after the game, but I know, Jackson Price, as you said, a career day in terms of points, hit multiple threes for the first time in his career, something you referenced there with what he's been working on. To do that against North Carolina, how impressed were you with what you saw from him in the starting lineup for the first time as well the other night?
Well, it should give him a lot of confidence. He's worked extremely hard, and at our individual development things that we do every day, we do individual workouts each and every day during the school year, and we get in here even if it's for 20 or 30 minutes before a practice. We try to do those things because my philosophy has always been I would rather have a better player rather than a new play come March. And we instead of spending so much time on a play, we spend it on those fundamentals because, again, we like versatile players. We like them to play all over. You've seen that with Stephen Clark. He is mastering 5 positions out there, doing a terrific job of that. But all of our guys play more than one spot, and I think it goes back to the way we try to keep them grounded in the fundamentals. But Jackson, part of an incredible stat line for us between him and Brady Spence and Stephen Clark, really. And then we had a couple back doors, as you saw, with Maynard and a couple things with Elijah Morgan. We outscored North Carolina 38-26 in the paint. Yep. If you would have told me that going into the game, I would have said, wow, this thing's going to come right down to the end. I don't know if throughout the history of Citadel playing North Carolina, I don't know that we've ever outscored them in the paint before. But we went into that game with that front line of Nance and Bakeout, and we were able to do that and be accomplished on the inside. That's something over those 10 days. We couldn't have done that 10 days ago. We were a very perimeter-oriented team to start the year. I like to think that we're going to, start knocking down those threes again and get some balance to it. But now we have a chance to do it, inside and out, which will bode well for us going forward.
Forgive me for peeling the curtain back a little bit, but your son, who's a member of your staff, helped us with the video clips. I know coaches are so busy. What's it like to be able to have your son, as part of the program, able to be around you?
Oh, it's a blessing. It's outstanding, and he's been someone now. We've been together a while now. We were together my years in Minnesota. He was on the team at Minnesota, and so I got to see him every day at practice. And then Coach Stackhouse knew of his value and wanted him to be at Vanderbilt, and he was an integral part of our staff there at Vanderbilt, working the players out every day and on that practice floor as part of the way we used our scout team at Vanderbilt. And so he prepped our guys for their next opponents. So we've been together now. This, I guess, will be our 6th year in a row together, and invaluable. He knows how I think. He does a great job relating with the players, and he's really the front line of the guy that is out there with those players working on their individual skills all the time. In his role, he's allowed to do that, and he's done a great job. Our players have improved, and I give him a lot of credit for it.
He can be that liaison, too. When the players are unhappy with the coach, he can tell them, hey, you should have grown, you should have been raised by him, the things I had to deal with in the house. As you mentioned, Minnesota, that's where he played, that's where you were for a period of time. I got a dilemma Saturday. Nobody texted me the Vikings score. The Vikings game got moved to 1 p.m. Saturday when the Citadel was playing Longwood. So I'm going to play, I'm going to turn off all devices, focus on the basketball game, go home, watch the game on DVR. Selfish question. Did you, in your time up there, I know the seasons overlap a bit, you ever make it to a Vikings game?
Absolutely. Our whole team went a couple times. The new stadium was fantastic. Mm-hmm. And then had a great experience up there early on. I was with, I'd become very familiar with a lot of the Saints players and coaches our time in New Orleans, and they played there. I think it was our second year there, so was able to be on the field and be with them. And the Vikings and Saints have had some iconic type games the last few years, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I could imagine. Growing up in Iowa, what were the teams of a young Coach Conroy? Who were you the biggest fan of?
Well, I was born in Chicago, and kind of became a Bears fan right away. But in Iowa, Davenport, Iowa, where I'm from, sits right on the Iowa-Illinois border, right on the Mississippi River, part of the Quad Cities. 2 of those cities are Moline and Rock Island, Illinois, and 2 of them are Davenport and Bettendorf, Iowa. Mm-hmm. So there was a lot of split allegiance in baseball. believe it or not, it's there's a lot of Cub fans and then Cardinal fans because St. Louis is not too far away. They have a great following in the Midwest. NFL football-wise, you'll find Bears, you'll find Vikings, but you'll find an awful lot of Packer fans. That's not too far away either. So you're kind of in the heart of some great rivalries because you're kind of equidistant from several different teams, and it's a great. Davenport's a terrific area to grow up as a high school athlete. High school sports are very important, but it's just a great sports area in general there in the Midwest.
We usually take questions submitted. We're not out on location tonight, so let me ask you another one. Just for you growing up playing basketball, was there somebody that you tried to style your game after or that you aspired to be as a young basketball player?
I was, and I played all sports, but I picked... I would pick maybe one skill of a certain guy, and I would always go try to emulate that. It wasn't maybe one guy's complete game, but I can remember going back, and whether it was, even if it was something that, say, Larry Bird did, you would go try to, okay, I'm going to try to master that move, and then, another player, a different move that they had as well. But, so I was more, varied as far as who I was trying to emulate. But of course, you watch those games, you go right out there in the backyard, and when the Bears were beating the Vikings, I'd go out there and be Walter Payton.
That's fair. Looking ahead, getting back to basketball, looking ahead to Saturday as the Citadel welcomes in Longwood. I know, obviously, this is your first year back, so you weren't here the last couple matchups, but boy, were they crazy. There was a 3 overtime game. There was another game that went down to the buzzer. Longwood on the schedule again, coming here Saturday, 1 p.m. tip-off. For those that will be in attendance Saturday, give us a little bit of a scouting report. What have you seen from this Lancer team? What type of Longwood squad do we have coming in this year that you guys are going to have to deal with on Saturday?
Well, first of all, Coach has done a great job with their program, and we're talking about, and very fortunate. I was thrilled that that was one of the contracts, if you will, that I inherited because we had already gone up there. They owed us a return game, but we're going to get an NCAA tournament team from last year in McAllister Fieldhouse on a Saturday afternoon. So I was thrilled about that. Will give us a great look at playing an upper echelon Southern Conference type team, on Saturday, and what that looks like right now, and where we still maybe need to improve or get better, and maybe where we're doing well. But I like what Coach is doing. They're a team. They do some similar things that we do on the offensive end as far as trying to attack off the bounce. A versatile lineup, if you will. Mm-hmm. They will switch a lot of things out there, and we'll have to kind of see exactly what's going on and script our sets like we do, but because they will switch and play different matchups throughout the game. So it should be a fun afternoon. I'm looking forward to seeing how our guys respond, being home, and it's Legacy Day as well. So we're going to have, again, I was thrilled the class of 2011 came back for our College of Charleston game. We had them sitting right there on the baseline by our bench for moral support. But now I think we've got somewhere 20 to 30 former basketball lettermen coming back here on Saturday. Should be a fun afternoon.
How important is that? Obviously, you played here. You're an alum. You've come back to coach. How important is it to make sure that you're reaching out and having those guys that have been through it before, being involved with the program?
Well, and I hope they feel very involved. That's something that I love for our guys to see. What guys who have played here have gone on to do. I think we can match up with any program in the country on what our former players have done after they've graduated from Citadel because of the background they receive here, the education they receive, how they're prepared to deal with real life. I'll put our former players and their successes out there in the real world, if you will, up against any program in the country. So I want them around as much as possible. I want our guys to see that as role models and things like that. But just in general, it's a lot of fun, and that's why we've done some renovations up here on the third floor. We're planning some more, but we have all our basketball letter winners listed now. We have a state of the entire country, the map to show where they've all come from, throughout time. And there's almost not a state that isn't represented. I hope they feel a big part of this. I want them to be even more part of it going forward. And I think for our guys, when you put on that Citadel uniform and Citadel's across the front of your chest, I think the more fans and we've had, besides our former players, we have other fans who have just been terrific about coming by to practice, being around our program. I think when you know everybody involved and you know how invested they are, and you've seen it, we've had terrific crowds on the road, whether it was New Orleans or at North Carolina last game, our fans are following us. I think it's really hard to give in on even a single possession when you've got Citadel in front of your chest and you have a personal relationship with all the people that have gone before you.
On the subject, it became official this week. Citadel football hired Maurice Drayton to be the next coach. This is the first time in Citadel program history that the head coach of basketball, football, and baseball programs are all alumnus of the school. So pretty cool for the Citadel. Coach Drayton played here, was assistant coach, now coming back as the head coach of the football team. Obviously, Coach Skoll leading baseball, Coach Conroy leading the basketball team. So you are as qualified as anybody to talk about it, and I know you've talked about it ad nauseum through both stints, but, everyone loves the school they went to, but there is something about the Citadel that always pulls guys back, and the pride that you mentioned of playing with that name on the chest, there is something about this program that pride never leaves, and you're a perfect example of guys that want to come back and be involved, and in your case, coach at this school after you went here yourself.
And first, I'll just say I'm thrilled Mo's coming back. I'm excited. And, I'm a huge football fan, and so cannot wait to see what he does with the program. But no, it is. It's a special thing to be. I knew it from the first day I came down here on my recruiting visit, and when the way people treated me that day in the crowd, the fans, I just had a feeling that they would be there for me through thick and thin the rest of my life, and they certainly have been. And those people I met on that visit are still around the program today, and I still talk to them, and they still care about what's going on, and you just can't beat that. It's just, it's a special bond that the Citadel has, and very appreciative of it, and blessed to be a part of it.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to getting to know Coach Drayton as well once he gets here from Las Vegas, and we look ahead to football down the road. But of course, basketball season going on Saturday. Longwood comes to town, 1 p.m. tip. When we come back, we'll wrap up the coaches show here tonight from the McAllister Fieldhouse. We'll continue to break down that game on Saturday and look ahead to the next couple of weeks, because after the holiday break, we have conference play coming up right around the corner, so we'll look ahead to that as well. One final segment here from the McAllister Fieldhouse. It's the Coaches Show with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Ed Conroy, here. The Coaches Show is brought to you by Cutwater Spirits. We'll wrap things up next after this on the Citadel Sports Network. From the third floor of the McAllister Fieldhouse overlooking the court, where Saturday the Citadel will be taking on Longwood. 1 p.m. tip-off. Come out and join us. Get your tickets now and come see us here Saturday. Come watch the Bulldogs take on the Longwood Lancers for the fourth time between those two in program history, all occurring the last 5 years. And come out and see us. If you can't catch the Bulldogs live in person Saturday, radio coverage will begin at 12:30. You can listen there or, of course, watch on ESPN Plus Saturday's game against Longwood. A few moments left with Coach here as we get ready for that game and we look ahead. And, Coach, I'll ask you more about the upcoming schedule, but as you already alluded to, right, with exams having come and gone, waiting on the grades, we're about a semester in. From a basketball perspective, though, as you look at your team and some of the freshmen that have been brought in, just how do you assess how things have gone so far, you know, in the first semester for them in the program on campus and playing for you here these first, 10 games so far?
Well, very pleased with our freshman class. It is not – we talked on it a little bit earlier, but being a cadet student-athlete is quite a load. And your first semester as a freshman, it's kind of a blur around here. So the way that Tony Carpio and Colby McAllister, A.J. Smith, Madison Dewar, have handled that process and where they're at in making progress to become the players that they're going to become. I'm very, very pleased with them. You start with Madison. He's been asked to handle a heck of a load. You have a freshman point guard out there. I joke with everybody all the time. If I ever, for some reason, which I'm not, but if I ever come back a third time as Citadel basketball coach, starting freshman guards is not the way to do it. But I've done it twice now. So, but Madison, he right now he has a 2-to-1 assist-to turnover ratio. You get that out of your point guard at any time, it's a terrific thing. As a freshman, for him, what he's done, and then he's shown the ability to get downhill and score. He's knocked down threes. I love having him in at the end of the game, like Charleston Southern, because I know he's going to knock down those free throws and take care of the ball. He's having a terrific year. A.J. Smith and Colby, they're starting to become. A.J. was a little bit under the weather for a while, missed some games. He's back. He's starting to feel more and more comfortable out there. He's shown the ability, even in the last two games, Kyle Charleston and North Carolina, that he can score against those other high-level teams. Colby McAllister is going to be a terrific shooter for us, and Tony Carpio is a rugged forward that is starting to really show some signs in practice that he's coming along as well. So very pleased with that class, and they're going to be really good players for us going forward.
Yeah, certainly so. For your team overall, to build off of that, as we approach conference play, as we're now 10 games into this thing, you brought a lot of pieces together this year. It's your first year back, obviously. Do you like where you are at this point in the season? Do you feel comfortable trying to figure out the rotations and where guys fit in the different pieces, or is it still a little bit of a work in progress as we continue to move forward?
Well, I think in a real positive way, it's still a work in progress. I think we still have some other guys that can join that rotation and increase the depth. You saw it last game with Jackson Price. I think there's other guys right in the queue behind him, that are coming along. Like I just mentioned, A.J. Smith and Colby McAllister. We haven't been able to get Dylan Engler or Rudy Fitzgibbons back out there yet healthy. So there's still some growth from this team from a rotation standpoint, but in a real positive way. I think I don't think it'll unsettle us at all. I think it'll just make us stronger because other than Dylan and Rudy, those guys have been out there getting the practice reps every day. We're starting to get where I can put any kind of combination out there of players depending on whatever that game dictates, and they can play well together, and that's really the key.
Our next coaches show will be January 9th. Hopefully by then Rudy will be back into the fold. You mentioned a good point that you look at what you've accomplished this year. You have two injured players, and Rudy hasn't played at all this year. You mentioned the guard play. You've mentioned the ability of Maynard and Ash and Durr to take care of the basketball, and that's without a veteran guard in Rudy Fitzgibbons. So eventually, when he's mixed back in and able to return, I'm sure that will be a welcomed addition as well to the lineup with what Rudy can bring to the table.
Absolutely, that and also the one thing that Rudy's proven throughout his career, every year he's been here, he's been an efficient 3-point shooter. He's hit at other guys on the teams he's been a part of have made more threes, but I think Rudy percentage-wise has been right up there at the top, and so he's an efficient player that way. He gives us another guy with a little bit of a burst and quickness to get downhill. I'm sure that he'll really benefit from. And Dylan as well, because Dylan can get by people we're better at spacing now than before when they were injured, and so there's more room on that floor. As I showed you when we went through the North Carolina tapes, we're able to spread that floor a little more because we're better now at spacing properly, and so there'll be more room for them to attack.
And hopefully the recovery continues to go well for those two Bulldogs. They get back out on the floor as soon as possible. Longwood on Saturday, then back towards the Triad, is that what they call it there, North Carolina, back towards, we go to Durham to take on North Carolina Central University on Tuesday. And then it's into conference play. December 29th, a Thursday night, Chattanooga will be here to open up Southern Conference play. So two final tune-ups, if you will, on the non-conference schedule before we jump into conference play. By the time we do another one of these coaches' show, we'll already have 4 conference games under our belt. So allow me to ask you now, what would you like to see from your team here these next couple of weeks to make sure you're clicking on all cylinders and ready to go by the time you jump into Southern Conference play?
Well, we're really striving for consistency. And that's what we talked about, that entire half, but let alone, but 40 minutes of just, I think we're starting to show flashes and longer flashes of how we want to play, but we've got to be able to stretch that out to 40 minutes if we want to beat the best teams remaining on our schedule. I think these next 2 games are going to be great tests for us, the way they're both different defensively. Like I said, Longwood's going to switch a lot of things and be athletic, and North Carolina Central, a very athletic team that'll play some zone. This is going to be great preparation for us. 2 very difficult games, challenging games, but great games for us heading into the conference play.
We got about 90 seconds left, so this will probably be the final question. But Saturday, Longwood comes here, 1 p.m. tip. Come out and join us. What would you like to see Saturday specifically from your team? I always ask you in the pregame interview, keys to the game. What are your keys already as we look ahead to Saturday you want to see from your team here at home this weekend?
Well, it'll sound a little bit like a broken record, but we have to compete on that backboard. We have got to, on the offense and defensive end, we really have to take the fight to them on that and make sure we're at least holding our own, but getting our share of the rebounds and not giving people second shots. Our initial shot defense has been pretty good. Going into the North Carolina game, we were number 1 in the Southern Conference in field goal percentage defense, which is a stat. I don't get too hung up on stats. We're playing a tough schedule. There's been no non-Division ones in there to pad the stats, if you will. But number 1 in the league in field goal percentage defense, a stat that we do care about, was really good. And I don't know, we might have dropped down to second now with that North Carolina game, but we've been very good defending your first shot. We have to do a better job of not giving you a second shot and a second opportunity. And on top of that, if we can do that, that allows us then to get a rebound and get out and run. And I think we're an extremely dangerous team in transition because we have guys like Madison Dewar and Elijah Morgan and A.J. Smith that can get downhill, and we've got those guys coming back in on behind them on the break, like Austin Ash, who can shoot deep, and David Maynard and Kobe McAllister and guys like that. And then, oh, by the way, if you spread out to them, Stephen Clark, here he comes. He can play any of those spots and get out and run. So, I like when we get on the break. We just haven't been able to do it enough because we haven't rebounded well enough.
We'll see you out here Saturday, 1 p.m. against Longwood. Get your tickets. Come out and join us at the McAllister Fieldhouse. Next coaches show is coming up January 9th with the head coach of the Bulldogs, Coach Conroy. We'll see you Saturday here at the McAllister Fieldhouse.